Hi, I'm Ili Nadira, strategist from IDG. Welcome to this webinar, Modernizing the Network for the Modern Workforce, brought to you by IDC, Singtel, and VMware. 2022 marks a year where companies shift from working from home to working from anywhere. Changing infrastructure models, adoption of virtual network functions, and the need to support the distributed workforce have placed a spotlight on cloud, network, and security. But these have strained existing operations to keep employees connected, productive, and secure, all while having to find new ways to drive innovation. Thriving in this new normal requires breaking away from traditional network designs and embracing new approaches, one that integrates network and security at the edge for improved performance, operations, and security, and to do so competitively. In this on-demand webinar, we will start off with an in-depth analyst presentation on the networking trends that will shape the year ahead. Following that, we will have a panel discussion together with Singtel and VMware on the need to shift network designs away from the data center and how new architectures will enable organizations to keep employees connected yet secure. So first up, I'd like to welcome Hugh Wihazi, Vice President, Telecommunications and IoT APJ, IDC. He will be bringing us through the region's networking trends. Welcome, Hugh.
Thanks, Ili, and welcome everybody. It's really great to have you with us. It's an interesting world we live in, right? Ili just spoke briefly about the changes that have been wrought as a consequence of the pandemic. And we're now in this situation where your business is everywhere. In our surveys, we've seen the transformation from blind panic when the COVID pandemic struck everybody and we had to get our employees out of the office, get laptops to people, get them on faster internet, and make the business continue to survive. And it was hanging on by the fingernails. 2 years on, our surveys are telling us that people are a lot more optimistic. They're a lot more excited by the future, and we're seeing the emergence of digital thrivers who are transforming their business and who are making the world that we see in the new normal part of their reality. So if your business is everywhere, shouldn't your network be there as well? When we look at the things that happened and really bubbled up to the top of the priority list for enterprises, and not only here in Asia, but globally, we saw obviously remote work. And then that brought with it an increased refocus on security and risk. We didn't have enough people necessarily to make sure that we kept every single link and every single cloud environment and every single application running in their optimum form. So we brought in hyper-automation across those platforms. The importance of cloud became even greater than it had been before. We'd seen cloud initiatives being prioritized, certainly, but they weren't front and center in some organizations. And so cloud first and the adoption of multiple cloud environments is endemic across the entire enterprise world. Here in Asia, for example, we're seeing that most companies have between 7 and 10 different cloud providers. And so the issues that arise around vendor management and making sure that all the players cooperate effectively are really coming to the fore. There's also new use cases. We're seeing more and more data, and that data is being increasingly analyzed in real time. And so the network must now deal with consumer, enterprise, and industrial use cases. And this is especially true when we support remote workers, because the home, which was traditionally the non-work zone and where we lived and played, is now hosting work from multiple players, education and learning as schools shut and universities go remote, entertainment from streaming and online sources, and even smart home and industrial use cases. So we're having to adapt our networks, not just to the traditional use cases, but to these new use cases that are very demanding of bandwidth and ultra-low latencies. On the other side of that, though, we've also got priorities around ensuring that every network segment that we traverse with our data is secure, and it understands and obeys the service level agreements and quality of service that we need. So the video conference that I'm on with my CEO has to be, incredibly reliable, even if it requires a downgrading of the YouTube video my son is watching at the same time. So we have to optimize our workloads, optimize our network, and optimize our security to make sure that everybody gets the right access to the right workloads in the right place. So that traditional overlay of security on top of the network is changing very rapidly, and we're starting to bring that together because we want the network to be secure, we want the cloud to be secure, and we want the experience for the end user to be one of trust, performance, and enablement of whatever task is being undertaken. So network virtualization has also bubbled up as a major initiative as enterprises look at that, see that they can understand more about workloads, about devices, they can manage better, and they can meet the demands of all of these different network segments that they're actually traversing. So when we start to bring together all the acronyms that you can see in that grab basket, so software-defined WAN, virtual network functions, and secure access edge, we get to the point of something that we can really call the future of the network. And IDC is looking at that as the way that we converge that network control, content inspection, and security into a cloud-based management mechanism that's going to bring functionality close to where users want to consume it, be those users things or people or applications. And the promise of the outcomes, and during the panel discussion, we'll actually talk about realizing some of these promises, is improvements in security, where we have to move from that sort of fortress model of security where we built a ring around our branches and our head office to one which is highly dependent on identity and policy and automated tools to patch and protect against penetration, an increased dependence on automation, not only through scripting, but through AI and machine learning tools that sit very, very close to the network and understand the policies that we're trying to deliver. Enabling remote work while at the same time reducing cost, right? So the cost of delivering those services has to come down. We're not seeing that enterprises are reducing their commitment to spend on network and security, but what these new technologies are bringing is an ability to take the money that was previously spent on mundane connectivity, if you like, and apply it to solving problems that have been irritants for many years. So increase the security of links to a particular location, invest further in endpoint security, and so forth. The cloud-based security and managed services have really come together to simplify the whole network environment. One of the banks I was talking to said that they had gone to a virtual network model and removed 6 racks of network equipment from their branch offices. So they were able to simplify and be more agile and responsive to where people were wanting to work and the workloads they were encountering, while also reducing costs and streamlining their delivery of service and building that, really effective customer experience. So, as I mentioned earlier, 60% of organizations globally surveyed by IDC expected 5 to 25% cost savings from their SD-WAN implementation. That's just one element of this transformation to virtual network, intelligent security, and a framework that really embraces the edge. So we're really looking at an opportunity here to reduce our cost, simplify our environment, and build much more effective networking environments. Endpoints are also a big focus, right? We know that the endpoint investment in firewalls, in identity management, in local file servers, on localized applications has been a significant part of the spend, and also the persistence of the branch office model, because we had to invest so much to make those branch environments work effectively. We're seeing a growth in the virtual CPE, so customer premise equipment. That's going to go in the software alone from 901 million in 2020 to over 3 billion in 2025, with a CAGR of 27%. So it's growing very quickly. And then the hardware market, where we have, universal CPE at a remote location, is going to effectively double over the same period. What this means is it becomes much more affordable and straightforward to bring enterprise level security to remote locations in a very rapid manner. So we only have to put out a CPE device, and then we can actually provision that across the network and then go from there. So the other thing that I wanted to mention to you is that over 3/4 of the people we spoke to have already embarked on an SD-WAN adoption journey at some element of their network. And by the end of 2021, we expect that adoption to continue. It doesn't necessarily mean that all networks are going to be software-defined WAN, but it does mean that it's featuring in the overall strategies for network design and implementation. Because another fact that we saw was that a large number of respondents felt that almost 80% in some markets felt that their network needed to be modernized to take advantage of all the new realities in a post-COVID world. So we're seeing that the adoption of security and cloud and managed network services is relatively high globally as of today. 92% said that they had advanced network security, and 84% said they had cloud. But the top priorities for the next 2 years was software-defined WAN, network function virtualization, and the delivery of edge services. It's interesting that edge services is really being considered as a partnership delivered model. There are some organizations who are going to build their own data centers but essentially extend the branch model, but the vast majority said that they would be looking for a partner to enable their edge plans going forward. And so the roadmap, if you look at the SASE framework, which is gaining prevalence, had a number of key elements to it. One is obviously the going virtual, so starting to introduce SD-WAN to complement or replace some of your traditional MPLS and private network solutions. Implement zero trust, so this concept that every single stage of the journey, data and end users must validate their authority. So we go from perimeter to a continuous security stance. Deliver that security using as a service models to remote workers, have our branches move to the cloud, migrate our DDoS to the edge so that we are able to respond immediately, and then build all our policy and security framework into the network itself and onto the cloud platforms. So that's just a quick overview of some of the things that we're seeing emerging from the transformation that we've been forced to go through as a result of COVID. And we're seeing organizations who are taking advantage of some of these technologies who are really beginning to thrive in the post-COVID normal. So back to you, Illy.
Thank you. Those are really great insights. Nice to see some really interesting market observations, and really certainly a great starting point for our panel discussion up next, where we will be discussing key roadblocks in embracing new network architectures, best practices, and outlook for networking. So joining us now is Fiona Chua, Director SD-WAN and MS from Singtel, and Anthony Prasad, Senior Sales Manager, Telco from VMware. Welcome and thank you for joining us, Fiona and Anthony.
Hi, Yuli.
Hi there, good to have you. So Hugh, if I can kickstart the discussion with you, what are your key views on the challenges organizations face when supporting a hybrid workforce that now works from everywhere?
So the number one challenge that gets nominated is security. They want to know that if I'm working from a public Wi-Fi environment or from my office here at home, that the data is secured, that my experience is secured, and that it's not going to be corrupted. And I can do my job in very confidently that it's all going to be fine. The second challenge is performance. Branch offices and HQs can afford to buy, multi-gig connections. I may not choose to invest that way at home. And so being able to have that reliable, continuous, multi-tenant connectivity model for when workers are at home or in remote locations is key. And the third one is integration and management, just understanding where is everything, where is everybody, what are they doing, why are they doing it, and doing it in a non-intrusive manner so it doesn't compromise when employees or partners want to take a break. But it's really important to understand what's happening and the performance of those discrete workloads as opposed to the overall network's fine, but Anthony can't get onto a conference call, for example. So I think those are the top three.
Thanks, Hugh. Yeah, it's good that you touch on security, performance, and the whole integration and management of networks. So throwing this to Anthony, what are your thoughts around the key roadblocks to enabling hybrid work?
Yeah, I completely agree with everything that Hugh mentioned. Those definitely are the key challenges we're hearing from customers. And just to build on top of that, I think a lot of companies that we speak to today, they don't know how to take that first step. So I believe that one of the things that's really hindering companies looking at modernizing their network is a mental shift in changing the way that they're used to doing networking. So traditional networks being, we're used to doing networking in this certain way. And now that we're changing and modernizing, how do we change the traditional network concept and try to innovate and move and change the way that our networks work today? So I think that, one of the things that we need to try and change is that traditional mindset of this is a network, this is how it works, into, hey, as I modernize my applications and move things into the cloud and look at, how do I look at security, how do I look at innovating in the network and the next steps beyond what I've built today? I think that's a big challenge that we're seeing.
Well, one interesting comment I heard from someone I was speaking to recently was they coined the term FOGS, fear of getting started. And it's not that there's a lack of willingness to start the transformation journey. It's that, where do I begin? What do I tackle first? I've got a long list. And when we were talking about this, it was really critical that they were able to leverage the expertise and experience of other organizations who had gone through that similar journey, and that recognition that you're not alone. So the cure of FOGS is company of experienced folk to take you forward.
Thank you. Thanks, Anthony. On a related note, apart from the challenges, we'll take a step back to understanding, why is it so important for organizations to move away from network designs that centers around the data center? So for this question, I'll ask Anthony for his perspective on this.
Yeah, thanks, Illy. So this is an important discussion that we're having as well with customers today, especially in VMware's world, right? Because for decades, we've been building data centers and virtualizing data centers for our customers. And over the last few years, it's changed and it's changing rapidly, and the conversation is changing. And so traditionally, when you look at the way customers have been building their networks, it's been everything into the data center, where I've invested a lot of, my investment has gone into building and securing this data center. And then I want everything going into there and then going out of there. That's the traditional way that companies have built their network. And so as we move away from that into the modern network digitization, it's driven by things that Hugh mentioned in his presentation. Things like mobility was driving change in the network, because today what you hold in your hand is as powerful as a desktop computer was a few years ago. And, obviously the pandemic and the shift in changing the way that employees are accessing their work applications, cloud, and the change that brings into moving applications out of that data center into who knows where it's going now. And then you've got networking technologies that's changing the landscape as well. So you've got 3G, 4G, and 5G that's transforming the way you're accessing content. You've got Wi-Fi 6 and the next generation of Wi-Fi and how that's going to change networking. You've got discussions around 100 gig networks that are going to completely revolutionize the speed at which we're accessing content. So all of this shifts into, how do we build the next generation of networks for our customers while looking at solving the problems that they're facing today and modernizing the way that they're accessing content as they take this journey into cloud. So, being experts in helping customers solve problems in the data center, we've now moved into this shift in mindset of, it's going to be a hybrid world. It's going to be a multi-cloud world. We need to have a conversation with our customers on bringing them on that journey and understanding how they're embracing technology, what's hindering them from modernizing their network and digitizing their business, and then helping them solve those problems. I really think that's the shift and building blocks that we need to put in place to solve these problems, Illy.
Great points, Anthony. There's definitely a lot to be gained by modernizing the way we are accessing content, whether it's from performance standpoint or mobility. But the thing is that despite this obvious business benefits, some organizations are still hesitant to embrace new network architectures. So Fiona, drawing from your deep experience interacting with customers, why is there that hesitation to modernize?
I think based on what we see, I think network practices have changed. In the past, we often see efforts to build future-proof infrastructure that could last 5 to 10 years. And these days, networking leaders are looking at how do they deliver the right amount of networking at the right time, at the right cost, right, to support their digital business. They are now looking for agile virtualized services that they could deploy on demand with integrated access into cloud-based application and security. In fact, we do see our customers starting or have started on such transition. However, such new network architectures often do consist of network transition in multiple phases over time. And because each of it has its own challenges and mitigation activities they need to carry out, these actually do require careful planning to ensure that there is minimal disruption to business operations and their end user experience.
Thanks, Fiona. I think as with many initiatives, modernizing networking is definitely much easier said than done. I like what Hugh mentioned earlier about fogs, that whole fear of getting started. And, we all can understand how it can be really overwhelming to be faced with that much options. So to help our viewers kind of take that first step, I want to tap into both you, Fiona, and Anthony's expertise. Can you share with us some best practices for organizations to get started modernizing? Fiona, perhaps you can start first.
I think it's common knowledge. Traffic patterns have changed. Users and apps are everywhere. We think that organizations could consider reviewing their networking needs by considering the use of SD-WAN technologies to implement a single overlay network with policy-based control that allows application-aware prioritization to enhance the user experience. And the next part is about future-proofing that network. Over time, we expect organizations to increase reliance on cloud-based application, SaaS, and security solutions. I think they should consider and make sure that whatever they have planned or use in their network or use services that will allow them to have scalability, have virtualization, for them to actually have that elastic services on demand so that they could manage capacity, manage user demands. And of course, lastly, I think it's very hard for all of us, in fact, to anticipate what change could come in the next couple of years. and every network is different and unique on its own. We do strongly encourage, organization to choose service provider who could resonate and empathize with their networking challenges, and choose service providers who will be focused on co-creation with their customer on their networking journey to develop services that they could keep up with their needs, address their pain points, and solve their problems of tomorrow.
Thanks, Fiona. How about you, Anthony?
Yeah, I completely agree with the points that Fiona has put forward. And a few other best practices that I've been seeing, to add on to what Fiona said, is you don't want to dictate a specific way that customers should be taking this journey into digitization and modernization, into securing their network and then improving the performance and this journey to cloud. So we believe in, it's going to be a hybrid world. The data center is going to play its part. Cloud is going to play its part. SaaS is going to play its part. So, we want to go on this journey with the customers by understanding what's hindering their progress, what challenges do they face, what's concerning them to embrace new technologies. And by talking to them about a hybrid workforce, how do we solve these problems? And by moving security into the cloud, is that something they're willing to do? Or are they being regulated through, clients in the financial industry or government agencies, for example? They can't take that step as fast as other organizations. Or are they an organization that's moving really quickly, embracing technology and rapidly expanding, in which case it's purely cloud? So how do we secure that environment for them? How do we improve performance of the traffic across their network, whether it be MPLS or whether it be internet links? And then how do we help them build a reliable and functioning network? So, completely in line with what Fiona was saying, it's a journey that we need to go on with the customers, with the right partners, with the right technologies, working in collaboration together with the customer.
Thanks both. Those are really, really great starting points. Well, I really hope these can go a long way to helping organizations get over that, that fear of getting started. We'll close off this discussion with a last question, and this is posed to all of you, Hugh, Fiona, and Anthony. As Hugh mentioned in his presentation, SD-WAN and other evolutionary technologies are poised to drive growth in the networking market. So how do you foresee network architectures to evolve over the next 5 years?
So I think the biggest one is something that consumers have been recognizing for many a long year and enterprises have been a bit slower, and that is that network is everywhere. Network is not in the office. Network is not in my store or in my factory. Network is everywhere. The second thing I think is that the trend to virtual, which we saw starting with data centers and the move to cloud for, compute and then storage, has finally made it to network, and there's no going back. So having a virtual network strategy is going to be liberating for many enterprises and give them a lot of choice. And the third thing I think is that choice is only going to continue to expand. We've traditionally been looking down, fixed cables or optic fiber, but the reality is that 5G, high-speed Wi-Fi 6, as Anthony mentioned, even low Earth orbit satellites are going to become a part of the overall framework of connectivity. So when you start to add in all that choice, virtual and everywhere access, having a strategy that incorporates multi-cloud, embedded security, and intelligence in your network, it's going to make your life a lot easier and more successful.
Adding on to what Hugh shared, I think it will always be a continuous race to simplify networking for ease of management and better user experience. I don't think we could run away from that. We do see there will be progressively a broader use of AI and ML engines to perform automation and orchestrate network elements to further ease and improve day-to-day operations. We also expect, network architectures and business operations and systems to be more ready to embrace such integration, so that such automation and such orchestration could be extended all the way from networking into business platforms and their applications.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, I think Fiona and Hugh have some excellent points. Over the last few years, we've seen tremendous innovation in the finance industry. People are banking on their phone now much more than they used to. Online buying and purchasing, people are shopping on all these online platforms much more than they used to. So, it's going to be exciting to see what kind of innovation and transformation happens over the next few years, driven by all the things we've discussed earlier. Is the speed of accessing content is going to be much quicker. The power of devices in your hand is driving more productivity and agility into the consumers, into your employees. And then the cloud is just making things much more innovative by allowing you to access anything, anytime, anywhere. It's an exciting future that we're going to have, and technology's driving a lot of innovation, enablement, and exciting things to come. So everything from gaming, retail, banking, regardless of which industry you're in, there's all of these exciting things happening. So I think it's going to be exciting few years to come.
Thank you all. Wow, that's been really interesting. Always nice to see and envision the future in our speakers' eyes. So thank you all so much for your time. Really interesting, timely insight, and hopefully it will be very useful for all viewers, for 2022 and beyond. And I would also like to thank you, our viewers, for joining us in this important conversation around modernizing the network for the modern workforce, brought to you by IDC, Singtel, and VMware. Thank you.